Welcome. Today, so I'm going to go over a couple group business for a short period of time. First, I'd like to talk about officer elections that are coming up shortly. I believe December 2nd is the date for that. We are electing a full executive board. For the spring semester, each member elected will shadow the current member of the executive board until the spring in which their term expires. At that point in time, each new member of the executive board begins their role as the position. So at the conclusion of today's meeting, we don't have every executive board member here today, but myself, Karthik, and Aurora will all be here to answer any questions that you may have about the positions or anything at all. So if you're interested in this, please come contact us. It's a wonderful resume booster, and it's a great way to get involved on campus as well. So if you have any questions, please come speak up to us after that. Also, if you have not registered for the ERP Sim yet, I highly suggest you do so. This is an opportunity that is unique to our school. It's not offered anywhere else. It's such a wonderful opportunity that we are presented, and it's something everyone should take advantage of. Another great resume builder. Something to help set apart you from all the other people who may be applying to the same position. Today, we have eTAX Solutions with us. So without further ado, let's give them a wonderful round of applause to the stage.
Well, good evening, everybody. Some of you already know me. My name is Shrikant Seelam. I'm pretty excited about this time because I was one of the students like you sitting there and looking over the companies, and I'm here. We're presenting here today our company, the eTAX Solutions, the global SAP data retention tool experts. So we kind of go today's presentation as we're going to talk about our company. We give you a high-level overview of our SAP module, which is basically the work that we do at our company. And then I will share my internship as well as my current role experiences with you. And then we go over the opportunities that are available in our company. And then finally we give you a chance to ask your questions and share your comments. Okay, it's a privilege to welcome our CEO and the founder of eTAX Solutions, Tina McCormick, to share about our company. Thank you.
Well, that was pretty fast. There, that looks better.
Hi, I'm Tina McCormick. I created eTAX Solutions back in 1999. My background was accounting, and I actually started at a CPA firm here locally, Robert F. Murray and Company, that is kind of across from Myers. I moved to Chicago, and there I held a variety of positions, mostly in the tax world. So my expertise was accounting and tax, and at the time, when I graduated from college back in 1985, computers were just barely out of being punch card type programs. And so I was the least ignorant accounting person of computers. But I already had a degree in accounting, and I graduated. Over the years, I actually acquired kind of the expertise of more kind of the IT world. And so I kind of sat the fence between the accounting and tax people and translated it to the IT people and vice versa. The biggest thing there is kind of understanding the business process of tax. It is a very kind of untapped market because nobody wants to deal with taxes. I don't want to fill out my own tax returns well like anybody else. So with this knowledge, and then gaining that kind of SAP knowledge, the computer knowledge, it put me in a very unique position. So when I was kind of at the bank, I had developed some programs, moved on to Amico, where I was in a group that was kind of geared for the tax software, the software that they actually fill out their tax returns on. Well, what happened is Amico, which was the company I worked for at the time, decided to implement SAP. And because I had this tax and SAP knowledge, I got put on the project. So as part of that project, because tax uses information from every single module of SAP, I became very knowledgeable about the functional aspects of not only the financial general ledger information, but also sales and distribution and material management and fixed assets and so forth. Well, one of the things that we noticed while I was at AMCO is that there was nothing that complied with the rules for retaining information for the government for supporting their tax returns. And so I came over to Midland and actually attended a meeting over at Dow Chemical, and we discussed, kind of how they did it in the mainframe world for SAP R2. And we thought, oh, really good meeting. We should get this little group of companies that had met back together again. So we did. I said, I'll get the boardroom. We had another conference. We go to Vegas for this other conference. Between the time I agreed to do it, for maybe 6 companies, maybe a dozen people, and the time that Vegas conference actually occurred, 125 people wanted to come to my meeting because none of these tax people understood a thing about SAP. So I called in favors for Pricewaterhouse and Arthur Anderson and everybody that I could to say, can you just stand up there and tell us, like, what is the asset management module? Just to get some information out there for these tax people. And when the tax director from Microsoft calls you up and say, hey, can I send a few people to your meeting? You're like, yeah, sure. Because at the time I was a mid-level manager. And so that's actually how the tax user group for ASUG was created. And every 6 months, this tax group would get together and we would work with SAP. Well, because I kind of started the whole thing, I somehow became the chair of it. And so I actually chaired a group that worked with SAP to create the data protection tool module, along with some other companies like Exxon, Chevron, Monsanto, Anheuser-Busch, and for Chicago, which was also one of my former companies that I worked for. So when BP got bought out, or AMCO got bought out by BP in the late 90s, I had a number of companies ask me, hey, will you come consult for us? Will you come work for us? And so I had General Motors call me up and say, hey, will you come consult for us? And I went, will you pay me X amount of dollars? They said, yep. And I went, yeah. So I walked away from a 6-figure salary to go consult. And that is actually how eTAX Solutions became eTAX Solutions. So we specialize in translating very SAP technical things to tax people and tax requirements to SAP programmers and functional people. We also specialize in the data retention tool because I actually chaired the group that created the module. So not only do I understand the module, but the module was released April 1st, 1999. So we have, from the beginning, had this experience with the tool and work with the SAP developers to continue to enhance the tool to meet other requirements outside of the U.S. Start is used globally. I have customers on every continent with the exception of the Antarctic, and if SAP ever sells SAP to the penguins, I might have customers there as well. But we are the only group that participates in a quarterly DART Enhancement Council, so we still have influence over the product development. And that's the story of me. These are some of the companies that we have done work for. We've implemented the SAP data protection tool. We've consulted for them in some way, shape, or form, mostly translating SAP and tax. So it's not just one industry, it's a variety of industries. And we have every shape and size of company. So some of these companies have huge dollars, very small transactions. Some of them have very small transactions, like the retail customers, but just a huge volume of data, 50 million FI documents, a month in some cases. So So there is a variety of industries. And the interesting thing is, even though I kind of look at the same SAP tables and look at very similar information, it's sort of like if you handed somebody a bunch of blocks to build a house. You could give the same two people the exact same set of blocks, but they're going to build two completely different looking houses. And that's exactly how SAP is. So tricks that you learn by looking at one company and kind of seeing how they do things and what best practices. And then you go someplace else and you pick up all the best of all the best companies. With SAP, like I said, we have a very unique relationship with SAP in that we can still influence product. We see some of the new things coming out for HANA before it's necessarily available to everybody. We see what's going to happen with the data retention tool. In some cases, when we find out that there's tax requirements coming, we may actually communicate those to SAP. If we have a requirement or we find a defect and we can get, a half dozen companies to complain about it, we can actually affect the change because SAP might not listen to me as a lonely consultant, but they will listen to my customer base. So it is kind of odd that even though we sit in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, we are probably on conference calls half the morning with Europe, and then as Europe goes home for the night, then we can turn our focus to the U.S. As I said, we're very cross-functional because it's not sales and use tax like you pay if you buy something at the store. While that is a component of what we do, we also do the taxes that are levied directly on the companies themselves. So they pay an income tax, just very similar to like you would fill out a 1040, they fill out an 1140, and they do those tax returns. Every country has its own kind of special unique requirements. Probably no two are alike, but many of them use the same information because, who, what, where, when, why, how much. If you can explain the business transaction, the tax people can decide what rate needs to be applied to it and so forth. So I don't necessarily know every tax rule on the planet, but if I don't know it, that's where we use the resources of the companies themselves to better define the requirements. And we gain a lot of tax information, but at the same time, like I said, we are working with their SAP teams as well, and we're getting a lot of ideas and being able to solve problems because we have such a wide range of consulting experience. If you go to work for one company, you see how that one company does it, and you assume that's the only way to do it. We have a very different perspective on the world. Now, not only are we cross-functional across all the different modules of SAP, we also are very cross-functional in our skill set. I have to be able to know tax requirements and look at their database and say, oh, this is an important table or an important field, this one is not. That's the data content analysis. We have to sometimes deal with very old systems, and we have to upgrade their system via OSS notes, specifically for the data retention tool. But you have to know sometimes how to apply 200 notes, and in what order do they need to be applied. What are the dependencies? So you deal a lot with the SAP Service Marketplace and the OSS note. And you're dealing with somebody on the customer side that's actually applying the notes. We do configuration. We do configuration of the data retention tool module. Generally, I do not do configuration of the other modules, but I can tell you where all their configuration sits and what tables that they sit in. And I can pretty much tell you all the transaction codes, but I'm much more comfortable on the table set. We do ABAP programming. I have a programmer that is on the West Coast that does most of my programming, but also Sri has been kind of getting to know better exactly how we want things coded and working on that as well. So we do the ABAP programming. We have to troubleshoot. We have to be able to read code, write code, and make sure it executes correctly and perfectly, because this is for the tax departments, and they have to have their information not only out, but it has to be out correctly. And that's where the validation comes in. Once we kind of run this program, and what DART really does is it extracts a sequential file. You have a nice SAP relational database, it gets out this file. Once you get this file of data, somehow you need to make sure that it actually agrees back with SAP. That's our validation. In the validation step, that's when I put my accounting hat on, because not only do I need to know how to technically run a report, but I need to know for this type of information, what report should it even tie to? So if I extract general ledger detail, I know it should extract to the trial balance. And each piece of information that we pick out, we have to make sure that we can validate it back to either a report or a record count of some sort. We do a lot of production support where somebody will get a request from the tax authorities. I have to read that request and then decide kind of which fields actually will meet that requirement. So a lot of it is like looking at it, and the tax people don't know the SAP tables and fields. They don't know which tables and fields to answer this question. So a lot of times we're given the question and we have to provide the answer to the audit. And we will actually create the files, work with Basis to get those transferred over to a network server, and get those off to either the IRS or some other governmental agency. We do a lot of customer training. A lot of customers, especially in the tax departments, again, they're not very knowledgeable of SAP. They know their area of expertise. And so we kind of translate and do presentations about how each module works, maybe how you should code things. We review their systems and really suggest enhancement requests that they can implement. And documentation, always last on my list, always last on my list. I hate no documentation, but it is a necessary evil to be able to write well, to present it in a very concise manner, and to make sure that the people that are receiving it understand exactly what you're trying to tell them in a very sometimes non-technical term. And in other cases where we're putting technical specs together, it just clearly has to be almost like a program. This is the data flow for the data retention tool. So DART is a standard module of SAP. It starts by reading the SAP online database, and that's where the program actually sits. Much like if SAP were a grocery store, we're going shopping. And so we put together structures or lists of fields that we need to go get. When the program runs, it reads our list, goes to the database, goes shopping for us, and writes it out to a sequential file. It starts at a financial posting, and then it goes backwards. It goes and looks at kind of what preceded that financial journal entry. So if you're in SAP, normally, say we're looking at sales and distribution, I'm going to do a sales order, I'm going to do a delivery, right? I'm going to invoice them, and it's going to all goes to FI. When we do DART, we look at it in a reverse audit fashion. We look at, oh, there's an FI posting, there was an invoice receipt, there was a good receipt, there's a purchase order. So we look backwards, and we look backwards like that for most of the modules, with the exception of fixed assets, which doesn't necessarily post all depreciation shares to financials, and controlling, which has secondary postings. Once we get all this information, there's kind of two pieces to it. There's the transaction data, so an FI document, and then there's the master data, the GL account. Anywhere where there's a code, we also need the code and the description to go with it. So we will go get the GL account master, we'll get the customer masters, the vendor masters, and so forth. The unique thing about DART is that it also embeds in this extract file metadata. And what the metadata is, the data about the data. So descriptions of all the fields, how big they are, what type they are they numeric, are they dates, are they character? And all of that sits there. And once this file comes out, it is actually a standalone file. It's not a normal sequential file that you think of. That would be company account amount. It's arranged in segments. So FI header is a segment, FI line items, fixed asset header, fixed asset line items, and so forth. So it's a very unique file, but it tells the story of the month of January, for example. It extracts the financials and all subledgers, all data that we might need to support that financial entry. Once we get the extract file out, we have to verify that it actually agreed with the database, and that's where the validation step came in, where we're going to run, say, the F.08 trial balance report, run a view query, see if they match. And what a view query is kind of what it sounds like. It's not a logical view to go look at this SAP, almost like a relational flat file. And so SAP created what they called the view query because to create a more logical view of this information. With the Dart files, you can specify what segments that you want. I want the FI header joined to the FI line items, joined to the GL account master, and then I only want, document, year, period, company code, doc type, the amount, and so forth, the GL account. And you can pick and choose your fields off those segments. But to create good queries, you had to have common sense and a little bit of knowledge about how things work in SAP to be able to create a good extract file and make sure that the data is comprehensive. The Dart view files are actually what is remitted to the tax authorities. So once it's all been joined nicely together, it looks almost like a report, but it's still raw data. It's absolutely raw data. It almost looks like you dumped information into an Excel file. It just happens to be a couple gig big. ASAPS and DSEG are the two organizations that predominantly provide requirements to SAP for the data retention tool, along with different governments around the world. There are very specific requirements, for example, for France, for Germany, for Portugal, and so forth. So we have to keep track of also those organizations and participate in those organizations. And that's where we have quarterly conference calls with the Dart Enhancement Council, which is a part of ASAP. And we meet quarterly with the Dart Product Manager, who also is responsible for the financial modules of SAP. So right now, my company has an unlimited amount of Dart work. I have a company that has probably over 163 instances of SAP. I am turning work away right now because I have so much work. And so I need to get a skilled workforce that I can transfer knowledge to that can also do this type of work. In addition to all this Dart work, in my spare time, I dabble in tax data warehousing. We're working for a company now that has an existing financial data warehouse built off from many instances of SAP and some JD Edwards and other ERPs. But what we do is we define it from a tax perspective. So they might look at it from the end business, from a financial reporting perspective. We go back in and we look at that data from a tax perspective and say, no, you gotta add this table, you gotta add these fields. So those are the projects that we're working on now. So not only will we enhance their data, once the data is enhanced, we'll also then put all the specs together for all the reporting that will come out of it. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you. So that's a great opportunity for me to work with actually one of the creators of one of the SAP module called Dart. Before I get into the things that I want to share, I want to personally thank Dr. Frank, Andrea, and all my professors here at Central for their support and encouragement the last 3 years. And also,
Seems longer than that. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
so
I used to do that to him all the time. He was like, is that for real? I would always pick at him with kidding, some harassment like that, or harassing, or whatever you want to call it. You've adapted, you become Americanized. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
thank you. Again, thank you so much. Well, my name is Shrikant, for those who don't know me. I did my dual master's here, MBA and Master of Science in Information Systems with ERP concentration. I got my SAP Champion certification in 2013 and also a SAP SAS certification also the SAP SUG member here. So while I started my journey at the eTAX Solutions as a co-op, so it was a nice experience because I was looking for an opportunity to know more about SAP from the industry point of view, but it was hard for me to find one outside, within Mount Pleasant. But it was a great opportunity to receive the world-class SAP experience right in Mount Pleasant through Enterprise Tax Solution. So I started with my training in the SAP DAT module, like unlike a lot of modules we know when we do school, like SD, finance, assets, and a lot of things. But this module is so unique because it's kind of a module where you kind of get exposure to all other modules. Just as Tina mentioned, what we're doing here with this module is extracting all the data from all the different modules and keeping it in a right sequential file so that we can go for the tax and audit. We do this because we don't want to load our SAP database, the production database, with millions of transactions, right? Why do we need to have a transaction that happened 10 years ago sitting on our production database? It's going to occupy a huge space, right? That's why, but we can't just get rid of that data. We need to store them in a right way so that we can face the tax and audit in future. So this module will basically help to do that kind of job. So I've kind of gone through kind of a training. I got a material, and then it's not just one-time training here because, as Gina mentioned, it's more detail-oriented. There's a lot of small pieces. I'll share you that. So in SAP config class at Central, what I learned is Steve Tracy will give you the business requirement and then you config the system, right? But what we do at this eTAX with these things, I look at the config and try to understand the business, how it is being managed. It's kind of a thing. So training it's kind of an ongoing thing. Every day you learn something, and I do had a chance to sit in a lot of conference calls. As Tina mentioned, most of the work we do here is a remote consulting. So we don't have to actually sit in the client side. So we got a laptop from the company that we just do that from remotely. So in order to have a proper communication, we have like a lot of conferencing, like a tools that we communicate things to the clients. Not only just clients, we also talk with the developers. We also get connected with the SAP and all sorts of people. And also, as part of my internship, I do visit one of our clients' headquarters, the Chrysler Global headquarters at Auburn Hills. It was a nice experience to talk with the IT experts, tax experts, as well as the SAP experts there. And again, the access to SAP knowledge base articles. How many of you know OSS notes? So OSS is nothing but, for those who don't know what OSS is, online SAP support. So SAP is not a final product out of the box, right? It's not coming out like a final product and you never need to fix it, right? So actually the OSS database, OSS notes of SAP actually helps you, it gives you correction instructions to fix your SAP system. So with the bugs in the system or part of the enhancement, you need this OSS notes kind of an update to your existing system. So I get a chance here to look at those knowledge-based articles and basically take the requirement or see, just like Tina mentioned, the old system got a lot of bugs or a lot of issues that needs to be fixed. So we basically go check this database and pull the correct notes so that we can fix that issue. And as part of this, I had a chance to design a small database where I put together a lot of these OSS notes to organize, and so that we can just, by press a button, you're going to get the list of the notes that needs to be applied to the system based on the requirement. So that's a nice thing. Like I said, it's not just one module, it's not just ABAP or config, it's just everything. So that's kind of a great experience that I received as part of my internship at eTAX. That's my desk. Yeah, it's a lot of work going there. So
Definitely multitask with 4 screens going.
2 computers, I just have 1 brain. So it's a multitasking. You're not just looking at one system. Most of the things you do in a comparison, it's very easy. So if I'm doing one instance of SAP, I'm looking at another instance and trying to compare and trying to find maybe a code or maybe some kind of tables, and that's kind of thing. Well, currently I'm doing my full-time work at eTAX as a SAP analyst. It's not only the functional or it's not technical, it's a combination of both the functional and technical aspects of SAP. So most of the time I'm dealing with SAP data dictionary. You know the data dictionary, right? Tables, structures, data elements, domains, all this stuff. So that's where we get a chance. So with my data skills, what this helped me is to actually look at how the data is organized. It's very nice to look at the data, but when you have a chance to look at how this data is organized using these tables and fields, it's a great opportunity to understand the data itself. And creating structures, configuring the segments, variants, and all that stuff is kind of a day-to-day activity. And then as a DAT is the extraction of the data from the production and you're putting in the sequential files, but you need to make sure that you extracted the correct data, not just the amount of data. You have 100 transactions here in the SAP database, you extracted just 100 transactions. It's just not the record count, but you also have to tie back to, okay, I extracted $10 million worth of whatever sales transactions or FI documents. I need to tie that, whatever the amounts on the sequential file as well, right? So that's kind of a validation program. Our company owns a lot of proprietary programs that are sitting on our client SAP systems that actually automates a lot of the validation schemes we have to check the integrity of the data being extracted. Like I said, at eTax I get a lot of encouragement and support to come up with the innovative ideas to streamline things or to make things better. I do have a chance to develop a couple of Microsoft Access applications, basically database for dot content analyzer. It basically compares data things like tables, fields, and basically the data dictionary of different instances together, and I can say, hey, this client is missing this guy, and this client is missing this guy. So we had a chance to compare cross-client and learn more about the clients and help them. And a lot of tables. I have a couple of papers. This is like a lot of tables. These are like most famous tables in SAP, and almost we touch 90% of these tables, whatever extraction process, because most of the FI document, most of the transactions that trigger FI makes the entirety of the whole business process. So a lot of T codes, not just the application T codes, but also ABAP programming and also the basis S nodes, things like that. So that's what it is. Can anyone say what is the most powerful T code in SAP?
SAP all? Like, is it the role or?
No, just take a guess. What is the most powerful T code? Not from the, think from the business perspective. What would be the most powerful T code?
They're showing you SPRO.
SPRO, okay.
There's something on the financial
Yeah,
module.
that's good. Yeah, think from the business perspective. Yeah, that's more of the technical, right? If I buy a SAP packet, you go to SPRO, you config. Before you config, it's just a box. It's just a software. After config, it add value. What actually adding the value to the SAP system is the millions of transactions that is sitting in the SAP database that makes the SAP great, right? So I would say SE16 is a transaction where you had a chance to go look at all the tables, not only the production tables like your FI data or MM data, but also the technical settings also sits on this table, right? When you set something, it's there. When you make a purchase order, it goes sit in the sum table. And then not every person in the business had a chance to look at, even a CEO of the company can't go into SE16 because that's where the data, I can go and delete everything, it's gone. But at eTAX, we have a chance to look at the SE16 because we are actually dealing with data. But
AC16, can you delete stuff from AC16?
We have display access to SE16. You actually could, if you had privileges, you could delete some SE16.
oh yeah,
16?
but they don't give you
You could
privilege.
actually
But
delete records
I
from
thought it was
SE16.
only AC11.
It's controlled by security.
yeah, we have
So we have
still have
display
security,
access.
but yeah,
I
you're
thought,
actually able to look at the.
I thought
things.
AC16 was only display. Well, I
So it
stand.
is technically possible to update, to enter new entries and delete data from SE16.
Ooh,
So you just,
that's something I learned.
yeah, we don't ever want to have somebody, we would refuse that access.
Yeah, of course. No one wants to access things. Yeah, but I'm trying to give you an idea that that's where it sits. So we had a chance to look at the data dictionaries and even the data to have an opportunity to understand the business thing as a whole.
Okay, so this is more or less a summary. I mean, eTAX Solutions, while you may not know us yet, hopefully after tonight you know a little bit about us, but we are known globally as having kind of the lead consulting firm for DART. If SAP were probably asked who they would recommend, we usually get kind of the nod from SAP even. Part of that is because we're very technical and we understand at a document field level, at a table field level, all the information that's currently available. We have long-standing relationships with developers. My programmer that sits out in California, she actually trained the developers that do our product support that sit in India right now. She was also formerly SAP, and she was the only support for DART within the U.S. And when she retired from SAP, she started coding for me. Our customer base is obviously multinational, as you saw from the pictures. As such, we get to see the biggest, the best, and the brightest practices that are in SAP. And as Shri said, we do get to see a lot of data because we are doing a tax audit function. So we see everything, we see all data, we touch nothing. We just take a copy in the format that the government requires. 95% of the business is remote consulting. Because people know who I am and know my company, generally we just connect on from just our office that's just off campus at the CMU and we work from there. Occasionally I have to go on site, but it's a very kind of minute piece. I have done work for companies for years in Europe that I have never laid eyes on. But I will tell you, video conferencing is a beautiful thing. Because when I first started consulting, I was probably on the road 80% of the time. And a consulting life is a very hard life. You think, oh, I get to go to all these cities. You get to go to the city. You get to go through airport security twice a week, going and coming. You get to sit in a hotel room and eat a lot of fast food and gain a lot of weight. And you see the office and you see the hotel room, and if you are by yourself, you're generally not so adventuresome to go out and really get to enjoy the cities that you need to go to. So that is kind of our environment. We pride ourselves on being very detail oriented. If your skill set is basis, eTAX Solutions is not for you. Our basis people are Johnson & Johnson's basis people or our Chrysler's basis people. We don't maintain the systems, we connect remotely, and they do the work as far as managing the environment. So the CMU RC is actually kind of a unique workspace. What the CMU RC stands for is the Research Corporation. It is not actually part of the university, but it is aligned with the university. It helps entrepreneurs start new businesses and existing businesses kind of take their business to the next level. So where my business had been in, I had been in business since 1999. Some of the time I was on the road at the start, and then I got to work from home for probably 10, 15 years. And then I decided, you know what, I picked up enough clients that I thought that I would expand. And that's kind of the position that we're in now. But the CMU RC has a very interesting culture. We have Yoga Wednesday, we have Wellness Wednesday, and every day of the week there's something going on at the CMU RC. Either kind of hearing ideas of these other entrepreneurs and being able to participate with those, or we even have a beer 30. So every Thursdays at 4:30 is cocktail hour, and we get to meet with the different entrepreneurs that are part of the CMU RC. This is part of our workspace. This is actually Shree's office. I guess you can tell that sometimes we draw a little bit on our boards. So one of the reasons why we came tonight is because we are looking for some very detail-oriented people that have analytical skills. We don't necessarily have to be the absolute know everything about SAP. That can be taught because I would say probably the majority, no matter where you go in life, when you come out of college, you have a base. When you actually go to work, you actually learn the details of whatever that area of expertise is. With a lot of what we do a lot of documentation. Sometimes, like with Shree doing the access databases, it's to give us some extra tools above and beyond. We have far more search capabilities in our OSS database than we do looking at the service marketplace for SAP. So that's part of it. Part of it is we have to do, accountants love Excel. Accountants love Excel. They live in Excel. It's like the Swiss Army knife of accounting Excel. So even though you may be a programmer, you need to know Excel. You have to be able to put together some spreadsheets, documentation, and so forth. And Word documents, we do have to, from time to time, put together test documents and things like that. So knowing your way around Word, is not that difficult, but it is another tool that we use. The SAP Technical, if you are very good at ABAP, if you are very good at data dictionary, especially data dictionary, because we live in data dictionary. I can tell you every table, I swear, in most of the modules of SAP, and I can also tell you how they relate to each other. If I see one field filled, I know what other 6 tables I need to go grab. That's my skill set. That's why they pay me to do what I do. The other side is we need to know SAP function. Not only ECC, but the business warehouse. I put together the specs this year for a Fortune 50 company for all their tax data warehousing needs. And I didn't know really business warehouse. So guess what I learned? Business warehouse. So I can tell you tables and fields in ECC, and I had to try to even myself grow through the experiences and the needs that the customer has. The accounting side of the world. There's accounting people, there's IT people. Those people that sit the fence, huge demand for that right now. Huge demand. Because if you could be able to code the most brilliant thing, but you still have to have somebody give you that input so that you know what to code. But if you understand the accounting side, you understand the business side, you are going to be